everybody, welcome to our channel. I'm Addie, aka The Monkey.
And I'm Nick, aka Dad.
Today we're diving deep into the world of off-roading, specifically focusing on the Tern Off-Road rear lower control arms skid plate. If you're serious about tackling the toughest terrains, protecting your vehicle's undercarriage is non-negotiable. Let's explore what makes this skid plate a must-have for your off-road adventures. But if you're not a subscriber, take a second to smash the subscribe button.
We're going to cut this open here. Nicely packaged, especially with having the plastic ties on these. I always like how Tern Off-Road does all of their packaging, which most of the stuff is over-packaged, which is great. Similar to the bumper we put on, this has the styrofoam that is wrapped around it. This, right there. This will be our hardware. And then, like I said, everything's wrapped in the styrofoam, which is really pretty nice. This is how our bumper was from them as well, had all the styrofoam on it. So super nice to have all that and know that the part you've purchased isn't gonna get damaged. Now our brackets are really nicely constructed. These are almost a 1/4 inch thick steel on these things. Powder coat is really nice. The welds are really nice as well. And I do see some like extra thick parts here too. Let me flip this over here. You can see where they've got it like sandwiched together. So you're getting some extra thick material now on the bottom of your skid, which is where you want it. So really nicely constructed. I really have to say that the price point that these are really makes them nice. And now that I've seen them, they're even nicer to me, just for the simple fact that they are really well constructed and they have the robustness where it needs to be in that plate that's going to be taking the damage. So now let's take a look at the hardware we're going to be using to put these on. All right, so we got a couple brackets like this that we'll be using to install the side pieces. We've also got this bracket here. This is going to be, I believe, for the driver's side. It has like this little tab on it because there is some drilling involved, which we will get to once we get to the driver's side. You also have 4 of these 13 millimeter bolts that are flange bolts here. These are going to be used for the sides on both of the driver and the passenger side ones. So we'll show you where these are going to go. And lastly, you've got 2 of these button head bolts. This is a 5 millimeter Allen that this will take, and a washer. Now, Tern Off-Road's online didn't really talk much about this washer or anything, and I'll show you where this washer is going to go. Because like I said, in the Tern Off-Road installation video, didn't really talk about it until I figured it out. We also have 2 of these rubber spacers, and by what I understand, these are only used for vehicles that have the Sasquatch package. So if you don't have a Sasquatch package, it sounds like you won't be using these. Lastly, in the box we had these bolts, which I did do some research. We will not end up be using, but I will show you how you would use these if you make another purchase from Tern Off-Road.
Now onto the installation. The process is really straightforward, making it accessible even for those with very basic mechanical skills. You'll need a few common tools.
Now what I would be using is a 3/8. I'm going to use an electric ratchet. If you don't have an electric ratchet, not a problem. Just use a 3/8 ratchet. You'll also need an 18 millimeter socket, 13 millimeter socket, and then I've got out my 5 millimeter Allen that can go onto a 3/8 as well, and that's great for those little button head bolts. Let me show you some other things you will need for this install. For the driver's side, we will need a center punch, which we will get to. You will need drill bits that can go through steel. So then we will need a drill, and probably would be a good idea to have some eye protection for this install because we will be doing some drilling, could get some metal shaving. So we will show you what we're doing there. So now let's get on to the install of the passenger side, which you will need to either purchase something or you may have it already. We'll get to that here in just a sec. All right, so here's the bracket that we'll be using on the passenger side. And if I remember right, it's going to go in just like this, where the long tab is towards the back. Now, the other thing that we'll be adding to this is the little rubber mounting piece here. So this will be on the outside. And to mount that, we're using that little 5mm button head bolt. But what they don't really talk about in the instructions with Turn Off-Road is that we need to use that washer. We had those 2 washers. We're going to use that, and it will then go into this big center hole here to kind of hold it all in place. And we'll use our 13mm bolts to go in here and here. And we're just going to use those to make sure it's aligned, and then take those off to put back on the skid. So let me slide this piece in here. We'll put our bracket in, and I'll show you what this looks like once it's all put together with these 2 pieces. All right, you can see we've got our button head bolt in here with the washer, and we've got our 2 13mm. On the outside of that, just to make sure that it is where it needs to be. I do find that when you're only using one hand, it's easier to put your finger up through the bottom of this bracket here that holds the lower control arm in, to hold the bracket up against while you're putting in that bolt. It does make it a lot easier. Now that we've got it all aligned though, we can take out these 13mm, and there's one piece that you may have to purchase. Let me show you. So here's where we're going to put the skid on, but what I was talking about was needing to purchase something. Well, if you're like us, we have the Sasquatch package, but we did not get the underbody protection, so we don't have the skids underneath it, which is something we wanted to add anyway. So normally you would have a bolt here. Well, since ours didn't come with the skids, we don't have the bolt, and there's not one in the kit. So I'll put a link down below. I found almost the identical same bolt that we'll be using on the driver's side. It's a flange bolt with serrated backside. You can get them on Amazon. I think they come in a pack of like 6, so I'll put it down below, but at least we'll kind of match the other side. But yeah, got it for Amazon. But if you don't have the skid plate system, you will be missing this bolt. So either go to your local hardware store and grab one. It's an 18mm. It's a 1.75 thread. But yeah, we'll talk about it more later, but that's what you'll need. All right, so we've got the skid on. We've got our 13mm bolts in back there. We've got the 18mm up front. I've kept them all loose. I put this one in first. Made it a lot easier just to kind of hold the skid up there and then leave it loose so you can get these guys installed. And then basically just tighten everything down and you're done with the passenger side. All right, you can see on the driver's side here, we have it basically just like we did on the other side. We've taken out our 13mm. We're gonna put the skid plate on now, and we're going to use it as a template because we need to drill a hole in the frame towards the front here, which let me get this put on and I'll show you what we're talking about. All right, so we have tightened our 13mm bolts all the way down, because what we need to do now is, let me move the camera here and move our light. So right up here now, we need to use our center punch tool and center punch for where we need to be in the center here of this hole up front, and then we're going to have to drill it out. I'm going to start pretty small and then just work my way up to where we can fit our 18mm bolt through there. Again, this is that black one. It's serrated on one side, and it's pretty wide here at this end. So yeah, we're going to need to drill a pretty good hole, but just take your time and yeah, just get through it really. All right, so after using our center punch, like I was talking about, I went and started with a 3/16 drill bit. Now, if you have cobalt drill bits, way better. These are the titanium coated ones, but at least it got through the frame pretty quickly. And then what I did was I actually just went to a step drill bit, and I kept the bracket on really, the actual skid. I did get into it just a little bit at the edge that's facing towards the ground, but I did continue to check to make sure that the bolt would fit, and now that it does, we'll continue on, and we're going to need this bracket here. I still have these bolts to talk about, which as soon as we're done with this install, the skid plate, I'll show you what these would be used for if you want to purchase one more thing from Turn Off-Road. All right, so now we're going to take our bracket here that has the welded on nut, and you're going to face it where the nut is facing towards the top of the Bronco, and you're going to go in through this big oval spot here just in front of the skid. Well, a little bit more than just in front. It's about 4 inches in front of the skid, and you're going to lay it like flat like that. We're going to work him on the way back here. Still have some mud from the last time we were out, and then we just need to make sure that that is lined up. So let me get this bolt in. All right, and there's the bolt installed. Now, you will have to put some pressure on that bracket that we have up in there, towards that end and to push down. But once you get started, you get a couple threads started, you can start to pull it down with your impact or your ratchet, whatever you got. And then we've got everything buttoned up back here. So that is our driver's side skid completed, installation complete. Now, probably the question you may be asking is, what were these extra bolts for? Well, the cool thing is from Turn Off-Road, you take these 13 millimeters out. If you want to put their style plate on the side, really cool piece, kind of covers up this nut, and that just makes it look a lot cleaner. You take those 13 millimeters out and you'll replace them with these. I believe these are 6 millimeter bolts. So you'll take them out. But yeah, we can put a link down below to Turn Off-Road's website. And if you use that link down below, it will get you 10% off of your entire cart, excluding their hard tops. So you can get 10% off. If you want to get that stylized plate along with these skids, you can do so. Just use the link down below, and it'll get you 10% off. Let's wrap this up. Well, I gotta say, the Turn Off-Road lower control arm skid plates really were pretty easy to install. I am sure, though, that there are ones out there that don't require you to drill like we did, but I mean, once you start with a small bit, and then if you use a step drill bit, makes the work go by pretty quick. The other thing is, those shavings coming down are extremely hot, so be careful with that. If you need to, wear a long sleeve and protect yourself with that. Keep the eye protection on as well. But other than having to drill that hole, it really was pretty easy. And I hope this helps out with how these things go together. I know Turn Off-Road does their own installation videos. I just found that going a little bit more in depth with like the washer that goes on the little 5 millimeter button head is super helpful to those that don't see that in the video. And then finding out that you may need to buy another bolt for your passenger side if your vehicle didn't come with the bash plates or the protection underneath. So that's more for us for future videos that we've got coming out. But we're looking forward to getting more to you here real soon. So let's get with Monk since the installation's done, and let's wrap this thing up. And we've put a link down below to Turn Off-Road. You can use that link. It's got Monkey Biz Off-Road at the end. It will give you 10% off your entire purchase, excluding their TR10, which is their hardtop. But most everything else, you'll get 10% off, which is pretty awesome. But as always, we appreciate you watching. If you're not a subscriber, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below so you know when we have more tips and tricks that we find on our Bronco that you can use for your Bronco. As always, thanks for watching. Have a blessed day.
Bye.